Coming up on this episode of 101 Sports.
With more conference alignment on the horizon for the NCAA, are the criticisms of one coach fair?
And plus, our NBA experts try to get their early season impressions in before the buzzer sounds.
All that and much more, and it all starts right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of 101 Sports. I'm Curt, Lestan.
And I'm Joe DiRienzo. We're back from our Thanksgiving hiatus, so let's kick things off with the starting five.
After the latest conference realignment moves, Syracuse basketball head coach Jim Boeheim went off on the current shape of collegiate landscape and the conference commissioners behind it, saying that that rivalries don't matter to anyone anymore. Joe, how do you feel about what Boeheim said? Do you agree with him?
Look, I totally agree with him. I get that these schools are getting money for the move, but it's ruining the history behind all these rivalries, and that's what makes college sports so great. The fact that they have rivalries going back since the schools started in their conferences. Maryland, a charter member of the ACC, moving just for money? I just don't get it.
I mean, Joe, everyone loves money. I love money, you love money.
Yeah,
but
money's pretty good.
The issue with this for me is that the only true rivalries we had left were in college football. Professional sports don't have them anymore.
They're stronger because of that history behind them. Players go to schools like Michigan and know they hate Ohio State. And you don't mess with things like that. You don't mess with rivalries that go for so long into the history. It's what brings people to watch college sports.
And they're true rivalries. They're not media-based. They are true rivalries, and this is sad.
Exactly. Morehead State head coach Sean Woods was suspended for one game after berating and shoving point guard Devin Atkinson after fouling out in a game against Woods' alma mater, Kentucky. Woods later apologized for his actions, but Curt, after seeing this video, do you think his punishment was too lenient, too severe, or was it right?
You know, I think it was just right. I mean, we're going to see it here coming up, and yes, he does get in the kid's face. Yes, he does yell at him, and clearly it's not something you want to see on TV, and no way a coach should act. But so yes, he has to be punished for it, but at the same time, you can't give him so much of a punishment where his power and leadership gets taken away and diminished in the eyes of the team. So I think it's right.
Look, here's my thing with this. Yes, you can be a heated coach. You can get into it. You can be intense. That's all fine and great. He crossed the line.
Yep.
I think this punishment was right. I think they could have gone a little bit more severe, but the style of punishment was right. He did need to get punished for what he did.
I mean, I certainly agree with you. He does need to get punished. And I think it was just right, though, because, you know, if you give him too much of a punishment, he's out of mind, out of sight for too long. You don't want your players to stop thinking about their head coach. Do you remember the "wanna get away" commercials? Well, Jim Schwartz certainly could have used a flight to get him anywhere but Detroit Thanksgiving when he challenged a Justin Forsett touchdown, which would have been reviewed, but since Schwartz tried to challenge the call, it could not be reviewed, and he ended up being called for unsportsmanlike conduct. Joe, whose side are you on here? Do you think it's Jim Schwartz's fault, or is this the NFL's fault for having a stupid rule?
Look, Jim Schwartz should have known this rule because they get reminded of it every week. But this is one of the stupidest rule understandings I've ever heard. It had good intentions at first. Players can't use penalties to extend between plays to make the official reviews happen. But look, the idea of the replay system is to make sure they get every call right. So if the coach thinks they should replay, and the officials think they should replay, and the NFL committees all think they should replay the play, why wouldn't they do it? That just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so clearly you're going with the NFL side.
Yes.
I think Jim Schwartz is at fault here. He's the head coach of the team. He has
entirely
to know
at fault?
the rules. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
entirely.
Absolutely. Listen, the rules are the rules. You know the rules. Don't throw the flag.
But if we're complaining if a rule is not right, this rule isn't right.
But it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It is currently a rule. You don't
Yes,
throw
it does
the
matter if
flag
it's right or wrong because they can get rid of it for the future. That's what we're doing right now.
But on Thanksgiving, was the rule in place?
Yes.
His fault.
NFL's fault for having the rule. NHL players are growing frustrated by the lockout proceedings now that the total number of games canceled has reached 422. Yet some are handling it better than others. And Dave Bolland of the Chicago Blackhawks is not one of those players. Bolland retweeted a fan who sent him a tweet saying, quote, "Can I get an RT for wanting Bettman dead?" End quote. Bolland quickly removed the tweet and apologized, but Curt, what advice do you have for frustrated players and fans like this trying to deal with this lockout?
First and foremost, don't do this.
Yeah.
Okay? Listen, you can be upset, but as we said before, there is a line, and this severely crossed that line.
This is way past ignoring the line.
It's awful. But for me, what they need to do shut up. Shut up, relax, because you know what, at this point, the season's not important. The thing that is important is getting a good CBA in place that'll last and be good for the long haul.
Look, the NHL has been one of the most lockout-stricken leagues
Yep.
in the United States. So you know what they have to do? Get a good CBA.
Yep.
That's what you have to deal with. This season's probably not going to happen at this point, with games up to December 14th being canceled. So think about the future and not about right now.
Absolutely, you're exactly right. No doubt in that at all. Rarely does BYU have the opportunity to land one of the top basketball recruits in the nation, but they're in the top 5 of the number 2 recruit in the 2013 class, a 6'8" forward named Jabari Parker. Joe, do you think BYU can really land this high of a recruited athlete?
You know what? They've got a decent shot. I will give them a decent shot because they've done some great things. The fact that he is a devout Mormon does help, and the fans doing what they did when he was there was awesome.
This is pretty cool.
Gave out 6,300 shirts to the fans in attendance when he was at the game, showing, we want Jabari Parker. We will do stuff like this for you if you come here. They helped, but facing against Duke and Florida and Michigan State is going to be tough.
I think it's great that the fans did that, and it is nice to see a school like BYU in this conversation, but someone else is going to pay him more money, and he's going to go somewhere else. That's the way it goes.
Oh boy, we're at this pay more money thing again, aren't we?
I said it. I went there.
Go ahead.
Well, it's time for us to take our first break, but when we return, I'll sit down with our college football experts to break down some championship games coming up. If you didn't know, they're coming up soon. You're watching 101 Sports.